Hello and welcome to episode 197 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is August 14th, 2023. Today I'm wearing a very old top and not such an old little shawl or shawlette. So the shawl I'm wearing is called Baltic Summer. The pattern is called Baltic Summer by Martina Behm. And I'm sure you all know Martina Behm, a very famous German knitwear designer. And she's famous for her triangular shawls that tend to be rather small and fairly long and not very deep. So this is one of those very typical designs of hers. But the special thing about this design is the zigzag pattern and the zigzags on all of the edges of the shawl. I knit it out of one ball of 4-ply sock yarn by Opal. It was a colorway in the subscription in the Opal abo, and I think the color did come in some series, but I'm not quite sure whether it was a 4-ply or 6-ply series, but I'm pretty sure the colorway did sort of appear for people to buy in bigger quantities. Whatever. I use one ball to knit this little shawlette as part of the pattern battle. That's where one color of the abo parcel is chosen, and then everybody who takes part knits the same colorway, but everybody knits a different pattern. I try not to knit socks like with this one, but at the moment I am knitting socks. But anyway, so this is the Baltic Summer by Martina Behm, knit out of Opal sock yarn. And I am wearing this sort of tunic. It's like a very long sleeveless top. And this was a project that I had to knit when I was working at Wollerödels. We had to knit all the things that were displayed in the shop window, and we had to use the yarn and the pattern and the color that was specified, but we could choose which size to knit, so we could either keep the things afterwards or we could give them away or sell them, but we could decide what size we knit. So very often I would knit my size so I could keep and wear the things. This is knit out of a pure cotton called Millefilly. It's similar to the Catania by Schachenmeier. But it's the Wollerödel cotton yarn, and it's a fairly simple design. It has this wide, I don't know how many knit and purl stitches rip pattern, and then there are some decreases knit upwards, and then the top part is knit in this mesh pattern. I think now, as I look at it, I think it used to have short sleeves, but I didn't like them. So when I didn't have to display it in the shop anymore, when I could take it home, I took off the little sleeves that I had knit and sewn in, and I love wearing it without the sleeves. I quite like it without the sleeves because of the rip pattern that the dress or tunic is knit in. While I was knitting, it looked really tiny and way too small for me, and so it's fairly small, but it kept getting longer, and everybody was asking me what kind of banana I was knitting. And this is why the project is called Banana. Yeah, so I wasn't quite sure about it when I first knitted. Did not used to be such a big fan of yellow, but I've gotten used to it, and now I have several things that I've knit in yellow yarn, and I like it, especially for the summer. I'm quite happy with it. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing today. Then on to finished objects. I have one finished object today, and I think one new cast on, so that's quite good. And the finished object actually are the film reel socks for my nephew. So I managed to finish them, and I even wove in all the ends. I did the ends of one sock on Saturday and the other sock yesterday, but now everything is woven in and neat on the inside. Not showing you the rest, but really happy with how they turned out. The colorway or the way the placement of the light and darker blue did change from one sock to the other. So I have a light heel here and a dark heel here, and the same for the toes, and all the films sort of look different in both socks. And I'm quite sure that my nephew is going to be really happy when he gets them for his birthday this week. I used Opa's sock yarn. The blue yarn is from the Cats and Dogs series, and I've talked about the pattern film reel socks, I think, often enough. It's linked on my Ravelry page if you haven't got it yet. Yeah, so I think that's all about that. That's all my finished objects. So on to works in progress. I will continue talking about socks. The oldest sock on the needle now are the Sarah Scott socks by Kate Davies, and that's another pattern battle sock. So this is the color from the latest Opal subscription box, abo box, and I decided to knit the Sarah Scott socks from the book Blue Stockings by Kate Davies. This is the first sock. I did the second color work bit and then put them on hold. For the second sock, I finished the first color work bit. I added some more rounds of just stockinette, and I've just started the increases for the heel. So Kate Davies has this heel where you increase during the foot, and then you just knit this bit back here and then you can go back to knitting in the round. So I've just started with those increases, and then once the heel is done, I can add the next bit of color work. So again, the red color is another colorway of the Cats and Dogs series. They look quite similar, but they're not the same. So this is a darker red and this is a brighter red, but the upper half is both a fairly light red. So we'll see how those flowers up there will look once I've put in the second color work band. So that's the first pair of socks, and the other pair of socks I have on the needle. This is a bonus pattern from this year's Sock Madness called Squiggley Madness. I am changing the pattern quite a bit, so the back of the sock sort of looks like in the pattern, and the front is rather different because I'm knitting a rib pattern here instead of the pattern that is supposed to be here. But I am using 3 different colors. I have decided that the leg of the sock is long enough. It's not very long, but I was just a bit tired of working with all the different colors. I was a bit impatient, so I decided that's long enough. I've started knitting the heel flap. I did the first few rounds with my mini circular needles, but I don't really like knitting to and fro with these needles because I'm quite happy, or let's say I'm not really happy. I got used to knitting with this very short needle in my right hand, but I'm not used to having that in my left hand. So if I knit to and fro, I have to have that in the left hand for the wrong side rows. So I decided to knit the heel flap on the double pointed needles, and then I can, as soon as I start picking up stitches, I can go back to using the mini circular needle. Yeah, so that's the first pair of socks, the first sock of the first pair of my sock couple that I knit every year. So that's that. And I only have 2 pairs of socks on the needle. Oh, that's not true. I'm showing some more socks at the end of the episode. I'll explain about that later. And I have lots of plans for casting on new socks. So I'll talk about that towards the end of the episode. But I started the second slipper from the test knit for the cloud slippers. So I'd finished the first one. Still haven't woven in the end here, but this is the first cloud slipper pattern by Yuki Knits that I was test knitting with the first one, and now I started the second one, and I've already done quite a bit. So I finished the cuff, and I did this flap thingy here. And I've now returned to knitting in the round, and then as soon as I finish those rounds, all I need to do is knit some decreases, and then I will sew the slipper shut with the Kitchener stitch. Yeah, so that should not take too much time to get the second one finished, and then I will have finished the cloud slippers. The test knit itself runs until next week, so I guess sometime after that the pattern will be released, but I'll keep you posted about that. Yeah, so that's that. Then onto the garments. I continued knitting on the bilberry dress for my cousin's daughter, and I actually managed to write to my cousin, but I haven't heard back from her yet. So I still don't know how long to knit the dress, but everybody I talked to agrees that I should make it rather longer than shorter. So I've started the next ball of yarn, knit quite a bit of that, and my plan at the moment is to at least finish knitting this ball of yarn in stockinette, and then with the next ball maybe start the ribbing, and then I'll see whether I increase some stitches so it doesn't pull in, and maybe I'm going to knit the whole ball for the ribbing. I don't know. I have just a few rounds of knit 2 purl 2 ribbing up here. I want to have a few rounds here. Yeah, so I think I should stick to the knit 2 purl 2 ribbing for the bottom of the dress, and as I don't want it to pull in, I will have to increase a few stitches. Yeah, should do that as soon as that ball of yarn is gone. Yeah, still like the dress, but it is now getting to the point where I'm really looking forward to finishing it. Yeah, I know how it works. The excitement's gone. So, yeah, needs to get done. The next garment is also, well, it hasn't grown quite a bit, but I'm also getting impatient with that. It's the Wiener Hot Pullover by Nicolor that I am knitting out of this llama yarn that I've never used before. It's very similar to the bulky alpaca yarn by Hansa Farm. Really like the way it looks and works up and the way it knits. I finished the first sleeve and I knit about half of the second sleeve. So now I don't have to think about when to do what. It's a fairly quick, but also a bit boring knit, but that's okay. As I say, it's fairly quick. Got some wool in my mouth. Yeah, so hope to finish the second sleeve this week. And then I only have one more skein of yarn in the blue color, so it shouldn't take too long to finish. We'll see about that. So that's that. And then we come to my new cast on for this week, and that's another garment. I cast on another pullover, and I've been planning to knit this pullover for a very long time. And what happened is I knit a pullover out of sparkly yarn by Opal years ago, and I love it. I wear that all the time as soon as it's cold enough. And I wanted to have a pullover out of their glitter sparkly yarn, and I think last year we got new colors, but none of the colors looked like I wanted to have a pullover out of it. So I was a bit disappointed, but then I thought, before I choose a color that I'm not really 100% happy with, let's have a look at the yarn that I've already put in my stash. And I realized that I had 3 balls of glittery, sparkly yarn by Opal, but they're all in different colors. So these are all old colorways that I don't think you can get anymore anywhere. And I just kept them because I like them. I never intended to use them together. But when I looked at them, I realized I think they look quite nice together. So my first plan was to knit another Raglano by Nicolor. And I thought of doing like this helix knitting where you knit one round stripes basically without a beginning or end of round. And so for quite some time, that was my plan. And then I thought about maybe knitting a flax pullover again, but I've knit both patterns several times. So I wasn't 100% sure, but I kept thinking about it and I did want to cast it on. And then for some reason, I looked at the patterns by Jamie Hoffman, who's also known as Knitosophy Design. And I realized that I bought the pattern for the V-back tee a long time ago, and I never knit one. So that was a pattern that I really wanted to knit, and I thought about this yarn that I really wanted to use, and then I decided I'm going to knit a V-back tee. So at first I thought I would keep with the one round stripe, but then I realized that the V-back tee is actually meant to be knit with several colors. So you can use one color, you can use 2, 3, 4, or 5 colors, and you get instructions how to place your colors, when to change from one color to the other. So I decided I was going to do a 3-color version of the V-back tee, this being color 1, this color 2, and this color 3. And the V-back tee, just in case you haven't heard of it, I'm pretty sure most people have seen the pattern, but what you knit is a top with a V-neck on one side and a round neck on the other side, and basically the pattern tells you to wear the V on the back, but you can also wear it in the front, of course. And the thing is that you not only knit a V-neck, but the stripes sort of stay in V shape, just maybe completely to the ribbing, or maybe just shortly before the ribbing. I don't know. But then, so you have a V shape on one side and sort of lines this way on the other side. And then you do short rows to get the whole bottom of the shirt to be at the same height. Sounds a bit weird maybe, but have a look at the pictures or wait till I finish knitting mine. So I've started with my color 1. You start with the ribbing, but you also start with the V-neck right from the very beginning. So even as you knit the ribbing, you do increases so that this forms a V. But you don't do any other increases, so the rest is going to be round. And then I started knitting stockinette stitch, and I've also done the first round of increases. Only just. And then it gives you a formula to calculate, depending on how many colors you use and how long you want your tee to be. It tells you how many centimeters to knit or inches to knit in one color before you change to the other. It's very, very cleverly done. So I have to knit quite a few more centimeters in my color 1 before I change to color 2. Yeah, and it's a very interesting construction. So it's a mix of a round yoke and a V neck and V shaping, but it's very exciting, and I really enjoy the project very much. I love this sparkly yarn by Opal. It's not like blindingly sparkly, but just this tiny bit of sparkle that makes me enjoy the garment even more than all the others. Yeah, so that's my new cast on. Really excited. Oh, by the way, the V-back tee, the original one has short sleeves, but I think it's really simple to change it into long sleeves. I want to have long sleeves. I know that 3 balls of yarn are usually enough for me to get a long sleeve pullover when I knit at a loose gauge, and that's what I'm doing. I'm using a 4mm needle for the 4-ply sock yarn, but I know that that's the kind of fabric that I really enjoy wearing. Yeah, so that's my new cast on. Then on to the crochet projects. I continued crocheting on the little shawlette or collar that I'm crocheting out of the Royal Alpaca by Hansa Farm. So I finished the second row of this pattern and I started the next row, and there it sort of starts to be more lacy, and I think that this is the last row that I'm going to crochet as a row, and then from the next row or round on, I'm going, I think there's only 2 more rounds, and then I'm going to crochet around the whole scarf. It's not exactly the same pattern because here I have a straight, like a straight edge, and on this side I have those scallops maybe, and yeah, so but I'm going to crochet something here and then something here, and then maybe the last round is more or less the same. I don't remember, but yeah, not too much more to do. And then I only have to crochet the string that's pulled through the edge, which will have a few flowers at the ends, and then I can finish this little shawlette fairly soon. Probably not next week, but maybe the week after. We'll see. Just a small little project, but I find it really enjoyable. This is all the yarn I have left from the first ball. I'm still not sure whether this is going to be enough for the whole scarf or not, but we'll see. The other crochet project I have on the needle, if you say on the, do you say on the needle for crochet? Maybe it's just the crochet project I'm working on. I'm using this very bright Wolldackel colorway. It's their extra fine 4-ply sock yarn, and I just added some more rows to this. At first, I think last week I was saying that I was thinking of crocheting half the ball, just the single color, and then switch to using both colors and then just do the other one at the end. But I've changed my mind the way I do all the time. And now I think I will probably crochet until I get to the next sort of section, and I will probably start using the second color from there. So I'll have more of the 2-color bit, and then yeah, just a little bit of color 1 at the beginning and probably less of color 2 at the end. But yeah, I wasn't too keen on having too much of this light color by itself. I'm just looking forward to mixing the 2 colors together. And yeah, so still doesn't look a lot like a shawl, but maybe the construction is getting a bit clearer. So I started with this bit, and then it sort of moves outward like this. So right now I'm crocheting along these 2 edges, and then at some point I'll do slip stitches and stop crocheting on this edge, and then I'll just be crocheting on this edge, and then it works outward like this, and at the same time the rows are getting longer, and then you get this sort of rounded thing that has lots and lots of these sort of corners on the outside of the shawl. So that's what makes it really interesting to look at, and probably also to wear. Really looking forward to that. Duinen, or whatever this is, how it's pronounced, is the pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and yeah, looking forward to seeing that grow. Then the next project I brought is the project that I forgot to show you last week. I brought it last week and then completely forgot to show you, and that's my All Memories, Coziest Memories blanket, but with my project is called All Memories blanket, because I was trying to put a bit of yarn from all the projects I knit with 4-ply sock yarn. Haven't really managed to do that, but yeah, I'm trying to put as many yarns of 4-ply project into this blanket as possible. Haven't shown that in quite a while, I think. So last week the new squares were those 4, and I was saying that I'm trying to put in the Sock Madness yarns now as quickly as possible. So this was a bonus pattern for the Sock Madness that I knit for my sister. These were the round 2 socks. This is a Regia sock yarn with with part cotton in it. This is not Sock Madness, that sort of slipped in there. This is it's like a cushion cover that I crocheted together with some grey yarn, and yeah, right now I put it up as a wall hanging until I've crocheted the other side, and then I can actually make it into a cushion. This was the main color for the socks in round 3 of this year's Sock Madness. I think this is I think it was a Lana Grossa sock yarn, and the contrast color was this blue. I think that again was a Regia sock yarn. And then I put in this almost square. So I ran out of yarn. This is another sparkly sock yarn by Opal. I did not use it in the Sock Madness. I used it in the knee-high socks that I knit last year or beginning of this year, and I had very little left, and I was pretty sure it wouldn't be enough for a whole square, but I wanted to put it in anyway. And I am thinking of finishing the square off with a single color yarn that I used as the main color for those knee-high socks. So to have the combination of those two yarns will remind me very strongly of my knee-high socks. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I have 2 more squares to do to finish this row. And I am not adding to the width of the blanket anymore. I decided that this is wide enough. I added the black stripe on this edge, and now I'm only adding squares to the length of the blanket, and this is what I already have. So it's a nice width. It's not very wide for a blanket, but I was thinking of maybe using it as sort of a wearable blanket, so like a big shawl. What does Stephen West always say? Schlanket, as a mix of shawl and blanket. So I was kind of thinking that in that direction. That's why I didn't make it any wider, but I definitely need to have it longer. So I can add several more rows of squares to this. So I'm really glad I didn't forget this week to show you, and I added the 1.5 squares last night, to make sure I had something new to show on the German podcast as well. Yeah, so that's that, and that brings me to sort of my last project, and that's the new knit along that I want to announce on this channel. And so we did a crochet along last with the hexagon cardigan, and if you're still crocheting that, then please continue sharing your pictures in the Ravelry group for Kikos Strickschule, and I'd love to see them. But if you're not into crochet, if you want to knit something, the next along is a knit along. So I decided to knit banana socks. So I don't know if you've heard of banana socks. You may know spiral socks are socks without a heel, and you can do brioche socks without a heel, but you can also do banana socks without a heel. And that's what a banana sock looks like. It sort of looks like a banana. And I've brought several of these sock blockers in very small sizes. So 1918 is a baby size. And if I put this in, you can see it's fairly loose on the blocker, and it's a very small foot and a long leg. But if I then put the 1920, so that's probably the size that kids learn to walk, so maybe when they're a year old. So it fits a bit better, but it still has a fairly long leg. And then for some reason I don't have a blocker for 21. So it's 1920 and then it's 2223. I don't know why, but I can even put in the 2223 size, and it will still fit as a sock. It still has, it sort of looks like a shorty sock, but it just shows how the banana sock keeps growing with the kid. And as long as it's not too tight, they can just keep wearing them. The difference between these and the spiral socks, not only in the way it's knit, but is also that you have a definite up and down. So this is the sole of the sock, and this is sort of the upper part of the sock. So you can't just put it on any which way, as you can do with the spiral sock. So that's one of the differences. But because this is the way it works this way, I decided to do a different toe than I usually do. I'm a big fan of the like round toe, or it's called star toe in German, where you have the decreases regularly around the foot. And then with the spiral sock, you can just put them on any which way you want. But with the banana sock, you have to make sure that up is up and down is down. So I decided to do this toe. And I think it's sort of a classic toe or traditional toe, or what was the other word? I don't know. But I found in most books or most patterns for socks in English, it just says toe. It doesn't specify what kind of toe it is. So I had a hard time finding an English expression. But so I filmed a video tutorial for the knit along, and I'm showing how to do a banana sock. I'm also showing how to do a crochet cast on just for fun. You can cast on your stitches any way you like for the banana sock, but I just wanted to add something to the tutorial. So I'm showing how to do a crochet cast on. I'm showing how to knit the pattern, which is very simple. And I'm showing how to knit this toe. And so I had prepared this sock to show on the video. So that's the little something that I mentioned last week that I had knit but didn't show. So I'm showing you today. And then I prepared a few more socks for the video. So I had this sock. I had those two socks started. One of them had a finished ribbing and no pattern, and the other one had a bit of pattern so I could show the toe. And I did this cast on the video. So I knit this on video to start the second sock to this one. And I had started both of these socks before I did the video, and I've continued knitting on both of them during last week. So this is going to be another pair of banana socks, and yeah, so this is the new knit along, and I'm going to publish the video on Thursday, and that's when the knit along officially kicks off. And I'm going to cast on a 4-ply sock yarn banana sock on Thursday to knit with the knit along, and I'm just going to knit these whenever I feel like it. This is 6-ply sock yarn, so it's a bit thicker. I'm knitting with a 3.5mm needle. For the kids' socks, I like them to have a bit looser, a bit softer, and it just works up quicker on the video, and it's probably also easier to see the bigger stitches. Yeah, so that's the next knit along that I'm planning. It's going to start on Thursday, and yeah, I'd love for you to join in and knit one or several pairs of banana socks, and please show what you're doing in the Ravelry group, and I'd love to see your socks. Yeah, so now that's everything that I knit and crocheted last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.